Now that One UI 6.1.1 has been rolled out for both the S24 and the S23 Ultra, it's time to check them zoom cameras. Now, if you have been following my channel, you know that there are some issues with the S23 Ultra, particularly when you go beyond 16x up to 19.9x, and you can solve this. You can also watch my video to perform the interim fix. So in this video I'm going to test 3x, 5x and 10x, and I do believe that's important because remember, both of the phones have the same 3x optical camera, but S24 Ultra took a new direction and replaced the existing 10x optical zoom camera from the S23 Ultra with a 5x, and this was and still is a debatable decision. So the first sample, as you can see, is a 12 megapixel 3x shot, S23 Ultra on the left, S24 Ultra on the right. Okay, so for the sake of the comparison, I'm using the maximum setting from the advanced intelligence, but I have disabled the scene optimizer just in case. All right, so S23 Ultra on the left, you can see the f is 2.4, S24 Ultra on the right, same aperture, ISO a bit different, only 400 from the S23 Ultra, a bit higher on the S24 Ultra. And now guys, let's just try to dive deep and analyze. So I'm just going to zoom to 150% and check. In many of the tests that I've done over the couple of months, it seems that still the S23 Ultra is very good at zoom, sometimes even better than the S24 Ultra. But now it's important to compare apples with apples. So in this case, this is exactly the same image. Again, it is using 3x optical zoom, 12 megapixel, because later I'm going to show you also the 50 megapixel. Okay, I'm going to zoom it up to 300%. And my personal opinion is that the S24 Ultra image in this case is just a tiny bit better. Okay, not by much, but you can just see how it looks overall. Like, don't just look at shadows and highlights and exposure and stuff like this, noise. Just look at the overall image and forget about everything else. I know it's important, you can also see the histogram there, but the overall image from the S24 Ultra 3x camera in the 12 megapixel scenario is just more pleasing. And we can see this also here on the bricks. The way they're represented just looks better to me, but I would love to hear your opinion, so just open the comments and start typing. If we have now to check the greenery part, I do believe I will have to make the same observation. The S23 Ultra seems to be just a bit more washed out compared to the S24 Ultra, more vibrant but also more colors, and definitely seems to be that there are more things to be seen there. Again, not really by so much more. And now let's analyze what happens here, because although the S24 Ultra uses a high ISO, only by 100, the overall exposure here is more on the darker side. But also it's very important to check the tiles here, the stones, so they just look better on the S24 Ultra. This is my opinion, guys. I would love to hear what you think down below in the comments. And now the same shot, 3x, but using 50 megapixel. And again, everything is on auto, and pay attention. The S23 Ultra is using an aperture of 1.7, which is actually the main camera, so this is a crop, which also makes sense because the 3x camera is only 10 megapixel and the aperture anyway is f2.4. We have f2.4 here on the S24 Ultra, but it's the same 10 megapixel sensor. So if we start to zoom in, and please disregard all details, it's 50 megapixel and I've just chosen 3x. I don't really care what the phone is doing, just want to test the output. It's clearly that it is not 100% comparable, but even in this case here with all the cropping down, it's clear that the S24 Ultra is able to produce a better image. The image is 8 megabytes, 12 megabytes from the S23 Ultra. You can see the resolution, so it's for sure a 50 megapixel image. The S23 Ultra is using a crop. It's a bit weird what we have here because f is 2.4, which is kind of like the aperture of the 10 megapixel camera, but the 10 megapixel camera is not supposed to take 50 megapixel photos unless some crazy pro thing is done. But anyway, let's not overthink that. Let's just compare the end results. Clearly better on the S24 Ultra, and here we can also try to see that reading is just better. And now let's move to the next scenarios. They're very interesting because the next one is 5x. So the S24 Ultra has a 50 megapixel 5x optical zoom camera. The S23 Ultra doesn't have it, so in this case the S23 Ultra is using a crop. All right, but again, let's not overthink this. We know this is a true optical zoom. Here it's a crop, and I do believe the results are absolutely what we kind of expect to see. More detail for sure, also the color rendition, so everything just looks better in this shot. Again, 5x on the S24 Ultra is just a proper optical zoom, and here is a crop from, I guess, the 3x camera. So this shot actually is 10 megapixel, This is 12 megapixel mode. If we try to zoom in here, we can check that there are some details on the wall, absolutely not to be observed on the S23 shot. Also, this painting is very worse, and if we have to compare here, it is the same situation. This is the same 5x shot on both phones, 50 megapixel, and it's even more interesting because this time the S23 Ultra is using f1.7, which is clearly a 5x crop from the main camera, right? And here we do have a proper 50 megapixel 5x optical zoom. And I do believe that those images speak for themselves, because when you just take a look at this, they're not even comparable. This is so much better on the S24 Ultra, and even if we have to go in this area, it's a completely different picture. Again, it is a crop, 5x crop from the main camera with an aperture of 1.7 on the S23 Ultra and a proper f3.4 aperture 5x optical zoom, both 50 megapixel. But this is the most interesting scenario because this is a 12 megapixel picture using 10x. And remember, the S23 Ultra on the left has a real 10x optical zoom camera that is actually 10 megapixel. And we can see this here with an aperture of 4.9. Here on the right, we have a crop, which I guess is from the 5x zoom camera. So we have here hybrid zoom. So it's not optical on the S24 Ultra with an aperture of 3.4. You can see also the resolution. It is again a 12 megapixel shot. This is very, very interesting. In the very early stages, when I was doing all these tests on One UI 6.1, the S23 Ultra delivered almost every time better. 10x and above, something like 20x, 30x. The S23 Ultra was just better than the S24 Ultra. And now it's time to check what happens here, because I do believe that this time things are turning around. Let me know what you think, guys. But the moment I start to analyze those both shots, just the clarity alone from the S24 Ultra here compared to the 10x optical zoom from the S23 Ultra, yeah, I think the S24 Ultra will kind of win that. And again, because that's a 10x shot, I cannot show all the other details, but we have to analyze what we see here. So definitely the S24 Ultra 10x shot now is not worse than the S23 Ultra, maybe it's even a bit better. Usually I was saying in all my other videos, I like how the 10x optical works on S23 Ultra because it's very photographic, you know, it just gives you something that you can see it's real. It doesn't really look so digital, but in this case, yeah, the S24 Ultra was just able to snap the better picture, according to me. But I'll be very glad to understand what you think, guys, so please let me know down below in the comments. And if you like videos like this, you know what to do. Support the channel, stay safe, and thank you so much for watching. BST over and bye.